Hello and welcome to another backstage interview at the Metals Investor Forum. I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven, and I am joined today by Bahman Yamini of Canasil Resources. Canasil is exploring a couple of different projects, and that's sort of where I wanted to start here with this interview. Bahman, I mean, exploration is not easy, right? And the projects that you're exploring in Mexico, the two foremost projects, they're both vein-hosted projects, and sort of the nature of looking for veins is that you have to take small steps, and therefore you can only explore sort of a small space at any one time, because that's just how it works, right? So in that context, let's talk about what happened at Nora in your last drill campaign. I mean, you produced some really good numbers for sure. The market didn't respond very well. I think that that's because of figuring out scale. So do you want to just take us through what happened and your thoughts on that?
Okay. Of course, the drill program, we targeted 6 drill holes on the Candy vein. Now, the reason we did that is that it's a very prominent vein structure. We traced it for about 3 kilometers on surface in terms of the fault structure that hosts it. And then right in the center of that, where the vein outcrops on surface, we had very high grade gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc surface samples, rock samples from the vein. And there is evidence of historical workings where the vein had been mined down to a depth of around around 50 meters below surface. And we have quite a lot of dumps around that area where they were extracting the ore. And when we sampled those waste dumps, we get very high silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc numbers in them. And that was the waste material. So they were cherry picking the really high grade stuff. So when you get average of 400 or 500 grams silver in your waste material, it tells you there must be something much higher grade down below that they were cherry picking and selecting and sending, hand sorting and sending to smelters. So this was an obvious target. And we were actually very fortunate to have an outcrop. Because a lot of the time with these veins, you're drilling and you may drill 10, 15, 20 holes and you're just hitting alteration. You know there's something there, but you're not hitting the vein. And, you have to have some stamina, you have to have some financial backing and some faith to keep going. Now, in this case, we really didn't know what we were going to hit. We hoped that we would hit some good mineralization because we're drilling below 2 of the sections spaced about 100 meters apart, were below those workings. So we said, well, these things can have different plunges. So again, it's exploration, it's potluck, you may or may not hit it. And then we stepped out about 300 meters to the north of those in 100 and 200 meter sections to try a couple of blind areas under the vein where we just happened to have some nice high individual gold rock samples on the surface. So, just shooting in the dark and seeing what you get. And this is why we were, very, very excited about the results, because all 6 holes hit the vein. Now with varying widths. I mean, some of them are narrow intercepts, some of them much wider, but generally returning very high grade gold, way beyond expectations, up to 30 grams gold in some samples, and up to 1.3 kilos silver. So we are hitting very high grade gold and silver right off the bat on the maiden drill program. Now this is amazing on an exploration project. When you look at experience with other projects, and you've got to realize we're right at the start of the game. So it's extremely encouraging. It confirms that the vein is there, the high grade silver and gold is there, and opens up the door for a lot more drilling below and besides these intercepts to explore this vein, which really could have very big potential given the strike that we see. Now we can discuss a little bit more in detail. I think there are also certain market expectations in terms of interpreting widths and grades, which I think have to be put into context of the type of system that you're working with and the stage of project that you're working in. So we can take a few minutes and take a look at those ideas as well.
I mean, I think I think it's very common for investors to wonder about widths and grade, and that's fine. We should always wonder about widths and grade. I mean, when you're talking about Mexico and high grade silver, you're talking about 1 to 2 meter widths and an average of 240 grams. Like it's quite narrow and it's not incredibly high grade by any means. So that's a good sort of touchstone. Now, of course, that's like saying that the average porphyry in BC is mined at 0.3% copper. Well, that's because it's already all invested and you can mine that lower grade, blah, blah, blah. So there's the capital invested, there's the new discovery barriers being a bit higher. But yeah, I think where I sort of come to first, that's one question that people ask, widths and grade. But the other is just, is it going to be continuous along a sufficient strike for there to be a significant resource? And so that's the challenge that then ends up in your court is, what do you do next? Do you try and take bigger steps? I mean, you took some 100-meter steps. Those are pretty big on a vein system. So what is your approach now? Do you try and go deeper? Do you try and go along strike? How do you try to understand and then convey the scale opportunity?
Okay, well, the obvious place to start, just like we did before. I mean, we had the workings and we had some surface samples, so we drilled below them. And now we have some really great intercepts on the vein. So definitely we're going to drill below those. And then we're going to expand from there to drill extensions going out from those and also between those intercepts, just to fill it out. Because, this is like a sort of slice of cheese with the vein, and you're picking away at it and filling it in just to build up that resource. But looking at the broader scale of, does this thing have potential for hosting something significant? I mean, if you're going to invest and put a lot of money into it, you better see that potential there. And generally, when you look at, I mean, a lot of these veins, 1 or 2 kilometer strike is very significant. Noting that the entire strike is not going to be productive. It's going to be higher grade and lower grade zones going through them. But something like a 3 kilometer structure, and then this is where the significance of the recent news release we put with the geochem sampling results come in, where you have a 3 kilometer fault structure that you trace on surface, and then the whole thing lights up with the silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc, all the pathfinder minerals, everything lights up and lines up along that vein. It tells you, look, it does have potential over that strike. Yes, it's going to take thousands of meters of drilling to explore it and develop it, but these are the kind of things that can have potential for 50, 100 million ounce deposits. If you look at a 1 kilometer productive vein over strike, going down to a depth of 500 meters, average of 2 to 4 meters width, if you do the calculation with the kind of grades that we're seeing here, you'll easily end up with 50, 75 million ounces. So just that vein has the potential. But beyond that, again, the other significance of the news release is that we see all the geochem surrounding it, extending on every side along the vein, to the southwest, to the east. This is a big system. And then we look next door to us, 50 kilometers east of us is SSR Mining's Piteria deposits. It's a 500 million ounce silver deposit. Well, we're not shooting for the stars, but 50 million would be pretty good to start with. And then you look, you go northwest, you have Endeavor Silver's Canasil mine, you have Fresnillo's San Julian mine, you have Santa Maria de Lora just north of us that has been mined. So this is the advantage of being in one of these districts where they're known for these large high-grade deposits, that they're not unusual occurrences, and it's just a matter of tagging into it. And as you said, it's exploration. Exploration is tough. Exploration has risks, but you put all the pieces of the puzzle together and you tell yourself, no, there's a real shot over here. And at the same time, we have some very highly qualified consultants and experts who know the area very well, who know the signs, who know all the signatures that you see, and all of them confirm that, this is something you should be really putting some money into and looking at very carefully. So no, I think that the signs are there. The potential is definitely there.
Now let's quickly, I don't want to do much longer because we try to keep these conversations fairly short, but let's quickly talk about La Esperanza, because you've now moved the rigs down to La Esperanza and you're drilling a completely different project than the one that we just talked about for 10 minutes. So La Esperanza is a bit more advanced than Nora and Candy, where you've been working, where you had been working in 2020. You're returning there with a drill program. Set the stage there a little bit and talk about what you're trying to accomplish with this round of drilling.
La Esperanza is, again, it's one of those very highly promising projects. It's sitting right next to Pan American Silver's La Colorada mine. It's their flagship mine. They're producing 5 to 8 million ounces of silver there at below $3 to $4 cash cost per ounce. A very similar geology. We see a lot of parameters. Now, the advantage of La Esperanza is that we have a large area. We have 5 vein systems, and we're working on one of them. The La Esperanza vein itself. And again, that one, in terms of the structures and what we're seeing, the airborne geophysics, etc., we think we can trace that structure for a potential 5 kilometers along strike, which is very significant. It has only a 150-meter outcrop, and we've drilled below that, and we've stretched that now with the drilling, with about 12,000 meters of drilling we've done there, and about, I think, 26 drill holes or 30 drill holes. And we have it defined over a strike of 425 meters to a depth of 250 meters. And again, without it being a 43-101 resource or anything, we do little calculations, just based on drill intercepts and just based on the width of the drill intercepts, the grades, etc. We see at La Esperanza, we have roughly around 7 million ounces of silver in that 400 by 250 meter strike and depth. And what we're trying to do is to stretch that along strike. We believe it has the potential, based on the signs we see on surface, to expand it along strike and to depth, because we know at La Colorada, they are mining and they've defined the vein down to about 1,000 meters. So these are systems that can go very deep. Now, we don't need to go to 1,000 meters, but even if you can double that depth and you can double that strike, then you're slowly getting up to the 30, 40, 50 million ounce level. Again, it takes tens of thousands of meters of drilling to get there, but the potential is very evident that it's there, not to mention the other 4 vein systems that are there that we haven't looked at yet, which would be startup exploration.
Absolutely. I think we'll have to wrap it up there. Obviously, you love telling us about your projects, and I think we could go on for quite some time, but in the interest of not stealing people's time too much, thanks so much for the update. And anybody, if you have more questions for Bahman, he's a very easy man to find, and he would be happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks, Bahman.